So you got a couple of boxes back there. You got a couple of finished products too.
I was pulling them out as I was showing you. There's still a lot more in the box, right? Papa Bear's got a lot of work to do on the Lego front.
It takes a lot of patience too to get those done. So now I'm wondering, because you were talking about stadiums that you built. You said you built Man U's stadium.
Yes.
What other ones do you have?
There are only 3. There's Camp Nou, Santiago Bernabeu, and Old Stratford. Those are the 3 soccer stadiums that they have.
Because I have someone that follows my page on my personal page on TikTok, and he is all Legos. Like, he has a warehouse, he does custom orders. People will actually go to him for stuff. I wish I was more of that variety. What's up, Coffee Firm? What's going on? And so I see a lot of good stuff on there, and honestly, I think about sometimes hitting him up, but I just know it takes a lot of patience because I was a Lego kid. And believe me, growing up, I got used to that feeling of stepping on a Lego as you're walking past. And that is once you get used to that pain, I mean, that's like a razor scooter to the ankle.
I mean, as an adult, you keep the Legos on the table. And if you're jumping on the table, then, you're in the wrong profession, I guess. I don't know.
But I think about it sometimes. But what's, I guess, in terms of a stadium build, what would be the next one that you're thinking of?
Well, so
the Rose Bowl.
Old Camp Nou has 5,500 pieces, which is one of the larger sets.
So that'll take a minute.
And Bernabeu is 5,900. So, I mean, they're big cats. Old Stratford was around 4, and that was a pain in the butt. But when you're done with it, that's the thing about Lego is it takes a while to do. So you're not getting them done in a day, especially with sets that big. But then when you're done with it, you have it. It's like a rewarding thing to see. I think they need to start making like baseball stadiums and stuff. I wish they would get a contract with like the NFL or Major League Baseball or something, start doing that.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking that too. By the way, I wanted to mention this, and I know we'll get into soccer talk here in a little bit. We're working on getting live here on YouTube. To all of you joining us,
we are live. We are
live on YouTube. All right.
Yeah. It took me about 12 seconds. I was done. Okay. I let you guys ramble though. This is great. This is great stuff here. I think it's great. You guys, you are the host of the show too. It should just be all about John. Well, actually, no, it should be about me. You guys can go now.
All right.
No. I mean, hey, first off, we do apologize. We had some guests scheduled for this morning, but they're like a lot of people do when they're flying on planes today. They didn't make it to their destination on time. And they're still on a plane. So nobody wants to be part of a podcast still stuck in the deboarding, deplaning, whatever the correct terminology is for getting off of an airplane.
Yeah.
Is it deplaning? Is it deboarding? Is it stepping off? What is the correct terminology of getting off of an airplane?
Off.
Yeah, get off. Getting off.
Get okay, okay. I know
away
Nathan,
from
you
these stinky people, the loud kids and
the kid that's crying.
I gotta ask this question
keep your kid quiet.
I gotta ask the question of you three, or of us three, and then obviously of our audience. Okay, I fly quite a bit, at least 7 or 8 times a year now, it seems like, and it probably get even more than that based on our growth. With that being said, I don't fly first class. I sometimes will fly Comfort Plus on Delta, but usually I'm back in the back. And so the plane, we pull up to the gate, and immediately the back row, they all out of their seats, they're in the aisle, they're getting their. It's like, does anybody else that bother them when they're on a plane? Like, okay, why are we all jumping up and getting into a line, and we're not even like close to being ready to deplane? Doesn't that bother everybody else too?
I find that disturbing, but I find it equal as disturbing as the people who do that boarding the plane. Like, you think if you get on there first, you're going without me? I'm all the way in the back, brother. My seat was paid for. I'm paying the $2.99. This sucker's mine. I don't care if it's aisle, window, whatever. If I have to climb over you, I will. But we're not going anywhere until I get on that plane. So there's no reason to push and shove and complain like a douche. Sorry for my language. To get on that thing. Boy, I'm hot today. I don't know why.
It's all
sorry.
great.
That got me all riled up.
As someone who has flown now a grand total twice in my life, the ripe age of 28 years old, I can tell you, getting on the plane, it's more the anxiety part. I think the biggest fear in my life, there are two biggest fears in my life. The first one is not showing up to a broadcast. The first one is waking up to a text or a call that, hey, where are you? The game's starting. That is probably the ultimate of all nightmares right there.
You meant this.
Oh,
I'm like, is he that mean? No.
No, but just that's one of them. The other one though is like the plane taking off without me. That would be not great. Like I was in Laredo once. That was one of my flights. Oddly enough, like right there, right on the border of Texas and Mexico. And I for a second there couldn't find the documentation I needed to fly back to Dallas and then fly back to Grand Rapids. And it's just this thought of just being stranded almost on the border, essentially on the border, was enough to send me into a tizzy. So getting off the plane, though, I don't know. Yeah, you're right. I mean, I guess everyone's excited to just get off, but no one listens to directions. No one listens. Like, I mean, that's the ultimate thing. Hey, stay in your seat. Don't do this. Don't touch that. Okay, don't. They're gonna.
JT, when you've flown and you said that you've done comfort class on Delta, have you ever treated yourself to first class just to do it? Because I did that one time. I just wanted, I was like, you know what? It's a long flight. I'm going to do it. So I did. And it was comfortable. But was it everything and anything that, people who put their nose up in the air to fly first class say it is? No.
No, it's not like at least from my perspective, and I've never flown first class before, so I don't have a reference point. But I don't believe it's like what you saw in Home Alone where they're like champagne. Oh, put the silver in your bag. It's a silver. Put it in your purse. Like no.
Unless you fly Emirates.
Well, maybe, but no, I don't think it's like that. Comfort Plus was, I mean, we paid an extra $100, I think, a seat to do it here a couple of years back when the wife and I went on a trip. But no, here's the thing. I think if you were to ask people who love Southwest, they would tell you they love Southwest more than they love Delta because they're loyal to what they know and what they believe in. No different than the people who really fly Spirit and they fly Spirit to a T. They understand what Spirit is all about and accept it for what it is.
The flying mustard bottle.
But for me, like my wife just flew Spirit Airlines to Florida, and I think the combined trip, I think it was for the two of her father and her to go was like $600. And I said, now at the time we were told it was like $50 for them to fly, not that much. So if you're going to fly to Florida for $50, sure, hop on a Spirit Airlines and go. But if it's going to be $200 or $300 for you to go on a plane, then pay the extra $50 to go on Delta. The Wi-Fi, all the other the cookies, those little Delta cookies are unbelievable, right? So there's a benefit to to being in that plane. Not to mention that you have this monitor in front of you that is a full-on TV screen that gives you live TV or access to hundreds of movies that you wouldn't otherwise get when you're flying on a Spirit Airlines or even I think a lot of other planes as well. So, but we were not here to talk this morning about flying on airplanes, nor to talk about Lego builds, but it is definitely a conversation I do want to continue to have, just not the rest of this show. I want to get into something that I think is really important. Last night, USLW, USL2 Sports Engine Play. Right. And, you covered these games, right? Midwest United, AFC Ann Arbor. Okay. The USL League 2 and USLW seasons are getting underway. All right. We have yet to see Flint City involved in the Bucks yet. But these games are starting to take off here. Great Lakes Division here in Michigan. And, there's 150 or so teams in USL League 2. I think there's 90 on the USLW side. Right. Give or take. What I want to talk about this morning is you were there last night, Nathan. You've been to a lot of different soccer games, whether that be in person, whether that be, remotely like we do most of our games, but you were there last night. From an experience standpoint, from a fan, the fan experience. Now, Midwest United is newer to USL League 2, right, and USLW. But from an experience standpoint, what was that experience like from your perspective as an announcer being there? Is it a great fan experience? I mean, what was the environment like? Talk about that last night from last night's game.
It's low key. I mean, it's not going to be the biggest, most popular thing you've ever seen. But the one thing that I'll say is, number one, I thought the weather was great. I mean, had some rain come through at different points, but nothing too bad to really drive people away. One lightning delay, it's fine. Everyone ended up coming back. But it is, the way I would describe it is, it's the setting in terms of weather and everything else was perfect. It was relaxed. I wouldn't say it was raucous by any stretch, but there were actually a decent amount of people that came up. Some of the kids from the different teams, the different levels came out to support. Even some of the students that were still hanging around on campus were there watching the game. But I mean, they brought a food truck. They had stuff in the parking lot. You could go get, food and other things. I didn't have an opportunity to actually wander over there to get anything because, credit to Midwest United, they actually moved it along pretty quickly. I was actually surprised with how fast they got both of those two games, and obviously with the exception of the delay, but it was low key, but it was still energetic enough. And the fans that did show up, and I could tell most of them were parents or friends, but I mean, they had chants, they got into it, they were loud at certain points. Obviously we could hear them, pretty clearly from where I was. The experience itself was, and again, I'll always say this, JT, and I know I said this to you last night, and it still remains true. Being there, there's nothing that really matches it. Simply because you get to hear, it's not even necessarily the fans, but you get to hear the chatter from both sides. You get to hear coaches and what they're yelling at the players. You get to hear what the players are yelling at each other. My favorite part of last night, JT, was hearing the ref talk to the players. That's something that I don't ever normally get, but in that setting and where we were in our broadcast position, we did, and it was awesome. And I heard at one point that the referee looks at a kid because he tried to go too fast, right? And the foul committed, literally just touched the ball and just played it like a second later. Okay. And so he draws him back in. He's like, hey, can't do that. Bring it back. Kid's complaining. The ref goes, hey, he's like, if I could change the rules of soccer, I would, but I can't. And so I'm just up there laughing because I'm like, this is great. But in terms of the fan experience, very low key, but they had everything you needed. Goal. They had everything you needed. They had the food truck. They had everything else there. And Aquinas is a great facility too because it's wide open. There's a lot of different places you can watch the game from. So definitely low key, but I would have gone if I had nothing better, or if I had someone that I either wanted to see on the team or if it was just around, because it's good soccer.
As we're taking a look at some of the first half highlights from last night in the game, and obviously, Nathan, you were on this call. A very interesting game, right? So it was a minute. I know you said a minute 45, but it was a minute 36. Not that the 9 seconds makes a difference or not, but we're talking about a minute and a half into the game. They're up 1-0 AFC Ann Arbor. And then and then I think they scored their goal somewhere in like the 35th minute. I think
it was like 32nd or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think it came off of a corner kick, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe that was the other game, because there was a lot of games last night. But Vitali is a phenomenal player.
Oh my goodness, yeah. I mean, Davenport product transferred out. But I mean, he was all GLIAC when he was there just a couple of seasons ago. But man, his handles and he kind of has this thing where he has like eyes in the back of his head. I mean, he dropped some like Steve Nash level, the double doink,
the double doink. Where's Chris Collinsworth when you need him?
Yeah, this thing, man.
1, 2,
wow.
And yeah. So that was a fun one to call. But his handles and his eyes and his IQ I mean, he had a couple of heel touches, like a couple no-lookers that were right where they needed to be. They just couldn't. Great build-up on a lot of their attempts. They just couldn't find the equalizer late, which is frustrating for that team because, again, they finished second in the Great Lakes Division last year. They're 0-2 to begin this year.
Yeah, they lost to Fort Wayne last year.
Yeah,
in the first round of playoff. Yeah,
so they got a lot of work to do.
I have a question for both of you, and because you were talking about JT, the size and the vibe of the crowd and everything. What's the largest crowd that you've both done play-by-play on site for in soccer?
State championship, boys high school soccer. In Michigan. Yeah, we did the state titles for D1, D4 through D1, and that was a really good turnout in student sections, and they had food and entertainment. It was cold as hell out, so I don't know if anybody was out necessarily playing bags or getting into the games or anything, but no, this is probably the biggest I've seen.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's pretty big. And we're talking, I think, 2000-ish in that environment, probably. I've called a game at the arena, a men's basketball game on the radio. I think they had 3,500 to play up for that Horizon League game.
Are we talking any sport here, Natalie?
No. I'm soccer. Just
soccer.
soccer.
Just soccer. Oh, okay.
If it's just, yeah, I mean, high school, I mean, that's probably it. I mean, because I'm just thinking about other ones I've been to. I mean, every other environment I've been to at the amateur level doesn't have that kind of a crowd. Now, we actually sometimes we actually joke around when we're on the air. I'd be actually, yeah, we're here in a standing room only environment when there's like 7 people there, right? So, I mean, let's pump in some crowd noise, like let's just add
like the UFL does.
But yeah, that's probably the largest crowd. It would be the high school, and I think Troy Athens actually last year, not this past fall, but the year prior. I think that crowd was much bigger. But yeah, because they brought Brighton. Brighton was not far away at that point. I mean, so that was a really big crowd out there in Grand Ledge.
It's interesting that you guys say that, because mine is the state finals here in Indianapolis. They play it at Michael A. Carroll Stadium where the 11 play, and Noblesville, which has won 4 consecutive boys titles and 3 consecutive girls titles on 3A, and because we have 3 divisions in soccer only, and it was against Bloomington South, which brought up all the Indiana people. And then the girls, Noblesville's a school that probably has close to 3,000 enrollment. So, there must have been 4,500 to 5,000 people in Michael A. Carroll State, which it holds 12, but nonetheless, everybody was on our side and you had each student section. So it's funny how high school draws the most, of all these discussions we've had about going to see MLS teams or going to see US Open Cup teams. At the end of the day, it's high school that draws the most, really, in our world.
Yeah. And you know what's fascinating about that to me, and it's why it's so discouraging to me to hear the conversation around high school, like, oh, it's just high school. You got to go play for the clubs to have a chance. You got to go play for this team or that team in order to really get yourself on the map in terms of scouting and, getting to the highest level. But like when you watch high school soccer, there's that sense of pride and togetherness and culture. And this is our school and this is our town. And it's this town against that. Like that's to me feels authentic. And that's what's most frustrating about it.
You're playing with your friends too.
Yes.
You're playing with kids you grew up with your entire life and went through and played youth soccer with and played other sports with. And it's honestly, people talk about college being the best years of your life. I think high school, man, that high school is a blast.
High school sport.
I played soccer in high school. I had more fun. I was better at baseball. Baseball was my calling, but playing high school soccer was one of the greatest experiences I ever had in my life. It was to have I don't know how many guys you rostered, but we probably had 18, maybe 17 to 18 kids. But we were all so close. We grew up from elementary school, and then the next thing you know, we're all team. But you get those little intricacies where, yes, where you should be on the pitch, but at the same time, you just know your friend's going to pass it to you at certain times. So it is really cool. And I always marvel, JT, when you say how many high schools are in Michigan, because we don't clearly that many in Indiana, but that they all flourish. Like when I knew when I did last week, when I did the Troy Athens game, that it was a big rivalry, but I didn't realize when you put up that top 15 of the Division I teams in Michigan that they were both on there along with 4 other teams in that division, like in their conference. And I'm like, wow, it was like humbling to know that I didn't know it at the time. But then when it came back, it like put made the heart go a little bit faster. I'm like, that's really cool that I got a chance to do like a high class Michigan high school soccer game like that.
Yeah. I mean, where we are here locally, in Southeast Michigan, Metro Detroit, there's a hotbed of soccer again. Within 40-minute drive, you could hit about 80% of the clubs in Michigan. I would imagine, right? 80% of the amateur teams, right? Maybe it's more like an hour, because you have obviously Lansing Common that's out in on the west side, western side of Southeast Michigan, obviously near Lansing. But like again, last night you had AFC Ann Arbor, which is obviously in the Ann Arbor side. You were talking about it last night, Nathan, on the broadcast about how they call home. I think it's the Ann Arbor Skyline is where they, or no, Pioneer is where they play their games at.
Yep.
And so again, then you got East Lansing a few miles down the road. You bring it back and go east. I mean, everything is east. Everything. And then again, there's some pockets in between Grand Rapids and Metro Detroit. There's some small pockets here and there, and you go up north, but everything else is on the west side of the state, where he was last night. Midwest United, Kalamazoo FC. You've got all Michigan Rangers. You have all this hotbed on the west side of the state as well. So it's kind of interesting how that all shapes. So the reason I asked that question is this: and you saw this last night, Nathan. You see the overall look and feel, right? You see the teams warming up, right? You see referees, and you can always tell the level of competition, really actually how the referees react and how the referees walk out on the pitch, right? If you go to most of your high school soccer games, referees are not showing up in street clothes and a polo shirt and walking the field, right? They're not doing that. Or they're not walking in with khakis and a polo shirt and looking professional with their big suitcases like they're going to the airport, right? But if you watch these referees, they're rolling up with these bags, and they have khaki pants on, and they have a polo shirt, and they're walking out and they're walking the field before the game, make sure everything's good. There's usually 4 of them, right? And then all the things that take place leading up to a game, right? The walkout, the national anthem, all the announcements, all that kind of stuff, right? Now, very like the USL League 2 and some of the pre-professional pathway, whatever you want to call it, semi-professional, these environments, very much like a college environment, right? Where you see, players running out, announced, national anthem. That's a high school game, right? Very much the same. But you start getting to some of these leagues, that's not, and not even saying getting some of these leagues. The leagues might say, we want this. They might say, we want X, Y, and Z, right? You need to have a public address announcer. You need to have a national anthem. You need to have this. But how many of them can pull it off? Right. We talk about this a lot. And the reason why I continue to ask this question, I talk about how USL League 2 and USLW are probably the most well-run leagues in the country, top to bottom. But what leagues require that have nothing to do with soccer and everything to do with product, branding, right? All these things that have nothing to do with what happens for 90 minutes. Right? Like what I mean,
very quickly, I'll let you wrap up your question or your point, because I do think it's interesting to say that I can't do a backflip, but I was ready to attempt one yesterday because of just how smooth the process was and the procedures were in getting me what I wanted and getting us set up and having everybody where they needed to and being ready to go on time. It was miraculous. It was miraculous. I got my notes done. I got the rosters. By the way, got them in timely fashion, responded to me in time. They were in numerical order. I could meet up with all the coaches. Yeah, see, that's the big one. We're not going from 1 to 30 to 2 to 7 to, numerical
struck
order.
A chord.
Isn't that great?
Chord.
And then I walk up to the coaches and they're like, "Hi, nice to meet you. Let's go through these pronunciations." Because I had one individual in the women's game last night, Laura, and her last name was K-O-K. There are 2 very real possibilities in this situation, and I didn't want to yell out the first one if it wasn't true. So it turned out it was Coke. Okay, so we're good. We're good there. But that's not it. Those little things are not. It's not a given in a lot of the leagues that we do, and it was fascinating to watch. I'm like, this is awesome, man. This is awesome. Like, they truly, at the very least, they care a little bit because they want to see something good.
it adds to your call
Hey,
because
100%,
like
yes.
a lot of the things that we do are exactly like that. And it's not getting numbers in numerical order. It's getting numbers at all sometimes.
That too. Yeah.
And you're frustrated and you're anxious before you have to go on, and you're looking at a player has a great goal or a keeper makes a great set. You have no idea what to say as far as the name is concerned. And you, as a play-by-play guy, want to give that player credit.
Right.
I mean, yeah, you say the team represent team. Oh, what a save by Oakland, or what a save by Real Central, something like that. But you really want to say that player's name because some of the stuff that we offer have the highlights in it.
Yeah.
For specific players. Yep. And I going on the same standpoint, Nate, is that when I did the Frisbee match on this past Saturday, it was the same thing. Access to the coaches. I mean, just almost running to us to tell us something about their team and their players, pronunciations, having the roster there, having the notes, everything just laid out. So by the time we were ready to go, yeah, I didn't know the first thing about Frisbee, but I knew a lot about the players. Yeah. So I was able to make it work with the information I was provided by Minnesota and Indianapolis. And it was great. So I mean, kudos to you for, I'm sure that your call last night, and I'll have to go back and listen to it because I can tell that it was a pretty exciting match. No?
Can't. Yeah, it's not live on our platform, but
then the hell with both of you. But it sounds exciting.
Up.
If you want, if you want to watch the game, you have to go to Sports Engine Play, sign up for that, and I believe you can watch all games live, but I believe if you want to watch it post live, you have to pay for it.
Okay. The other thing,
unless you're a creator, which I happen to be.
Oh, okay.
And then I can.
Well, then why don't you just slip that password into the private chat and we'll go from there. See, done and done.
The other thing I'll say here really quickly though, their website too was awesome. Like that's the other component of it. Even putting my notes together, like stats, they didn't have the numbers on the website, but they had all the players listed there. You know, all the players listed, what their previous season stats were, everything like that. So I got the numbers and what they've done on the pitch, and then I Google their name and I figure out college, location, where they're from, what they're doing. Like there was an individual on the women's team, and I don't know if she was there. I don't think she played last night for whatever reason, but she attends the University of Michigan. She plays for their club team, but what she had done, she started essentially something for like people with muscular dystrophy, like their own soccer league.
Wow.
At Michigan. So like there's people that like have like special needs or like physical ailments that compete in this league at Michigan. She started this. And so it's like that's an
JT,
amazing...
you got to get on that, man.
Yeah, that's an amazing story.
I would do that in a freaking minute. Oh my God. That's
an
fantastic.
amazing story. So and that's something that's like even sprinkling that into your call. Even that little bit right there is enough for people to go, wow, okay. So not only does this guy care, but that adds a little bit more color to what exactly it is that you're seeing. I know what the number on her back is. I know what her stats are. I know what club she's played for. But hey, she started this league for people who have physical ailments, which is the coolest thing I've ever heard of for someone who's 21 years old.
Yeah, that's phenomenal.
Awesome. I mean, I wasn't doing that at 21. No way I was doing that at 21. So for her to, and going to Michigan and studying biological science or whatever she's doing, like it's just that's a good kid right there. So I love that. Was the other side too.
And again, I bring this up because we talked about it yesterday with Vinny Vasilevsky. And if you haven't watched that show, go back and watch episode number 85 yesterday. We're on episode number 86 here today. I asked this question of him yesterday about what it's like, at University of Macomb and the culture. And he said, hey, we're building this culture. And I think we did talk about internships and volunteers and trying to get people involved, right? And how that can be challenging. And I got a text message from Flint, and I have a great relationship with Flint City Bucks and their organization. And oftentimes there might be a need of something, right? They're like, hey, well, you're in production and media. Is there anybody that that would want to do like maybe be a public address announcer for a game? Because they're trying to fill the gaps if there's going to be an issue where someone can't show up. And I got one of those text messages earlier this week, and it wasn't even for Flint. It was for another team here locally that's brand new that's looking for a PA addresser. They're like, hey, can you try and connect us with somebody? And I'm sure I can try and connect you, because everybody we work with on some level wouldn't mind being a public address announcer, especially if you're play-by-play. They kind of go hand in hand. The only difference is you're not doing play-by-play in public address land. You're just saying a goal or whatever it might be. But I keep asking this question. I'm going to keep going back to this point. These leagues are mandating things that take place that, again, they have nothing to do with soccer. They have nothing to do with soccer, right? And everything to do with an ambiance or to create a professional environment. But is that a hindrance? Is it, in fact, putting more strain on a system that's already being strained to its limits? And is that in itself hindering growth? Is that in itself creating problems where teams can't focus on the game and are focusing on an environment that has nothing to do with the game at all? And should we consider making those changes?
I guess I would have to know what specific changes you're referring to that you think are taking away from the game itself, because at least in what I saw yesterday, and I'd be interested to hear it, because what I saw yesterday was, and obviously when you talk about these clubs, you're not going to have everyone available on every day. Like that's true, but it didn't seem like anything really hindered what was going on, at least from an on the pitch perspective. I think I actually love the push to make it seem more professional, to make it seem more official. I mean, because the truth is like last night I actually felt, and you asked me about what did the experience feel like. I actually felt like I was a part of a professional environment last night. That was the part that kind of struck me, because I know it's the United Soccer League. I know it's the pathway to pro. I know that these are really good players. They're all, most of them at least, Division I schools. I mean, we had Western, we had Butler, we had Toledo, we had Indiana represented last night. I mean, there was a lot of different teams and stuff. But I'd be what specific changes do you think take away from the game on the field?
You said real quick. You said Butler. There was Butler kids there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do you know who was it?
I forget the name of the specific player, but it was in the men's game. Yeah.
Those are my guys. I need to know who that was.
I'll look back at the game notes.
Send me the Butler and the Indiana kids. I got to go give them some kudos right to the old SID and say, hey, you're on TV last night.
I think for transparency, I'm not saying anything needs to change. What I am saying is that the leagues require. All right, let's just go down the thing here. We'll start with on game day. Leagues require that all these teams have locker rooms. It is a requirement. You cannot operate in a non-locker room environment, or else you can't pick that facility. Number two, they require that you be there, at least have the field available 90 minutes prior to the start of a game, which means that you have to rent the facility for longer than you would otherwise, right? They require that you have to have 4 officials. They require that you have a public address announcer. They require a national anthem and a walkout, right? That's what they require, right? So sometimes they require that you provide them, water, a trainer. Well, those are also required, but require maybe food for the opposing team. Those are things that are part of a process, right? And so, these are all things that put more strain on these teams to operate in these environments. Internet speeds, right? Things of that nature. Again, I don't know if that was something that we had last night or not. At the facility, we provide our own internet when we aren't sure. But these are all things that are required at a league level. Now, do all teams follow them? Of course not, because they can't. We were just talking about this with Vinny Vasilevsky yesterday. I wasn't on the air, but we were talking about it after the fact. And we talked about it, like, hey, I go, Romeo High School, it's a great field. It's a great kind of environment, but it's like way out in Romeo. So if you're trying to get fans from Oakland County to come, that's a 30-minute drive. Have you thought about someplace here, more local? And he goes, yeah, but John, no one wants to give us their locker room. In the summertime, nobody wants to give us this, and they want to give us that. So now so this is the stuff I'm talking about. Obviously Midwest United typically has its own place too, right? They have their own complex and they have their own kind of setup there. And maybe that is a different environment than what you were in last night. But either way, I feel like these things, as great and grandioso as they may be, and how they do enhance maybe a fan experience, put a tremendous strain on teams and added pressure that they are already having a hard time managing.
By the way, Natalie, Macy Malecki is on the women's side, not the men's side.
Okay.
Got it in there.
From Butler?
From Butler, Macy Malecki.
But I got to reach out to Terry. She's the head
sounds
coach
good.
for Butler. Got to reach. What was it again? Sorry.
Macy Malecki, Malecki.
Okay.
But
I want to see if she's a local kid. Go ahead.
But anyways, yeah. To that point, JT, I'm sure it does to some extent, and I agree. I mean, the fact is, and even at Aquinas, like I don't know where would their locker rooms be. Like I'm trying to imagine. I mean, I guess they do have locker rooms somewhat nearby, and I don't even know at Aquinas. Like it's nowhere real close to the facility because even when we had that lightning delay, like you saw the players kind of walking off into the distance. So I don't know exactly where they were. But I think the hardest thing is the logistical side of it it just limits the places that you can play these games. And I think there's a reason why, at least for Midwest United. And I thought it was interesting. And I actually talked to their general manager, Alexis Rickson, before we started. And oddly enough, she actually went to Cornerstone when I was there. I was broadcasting games for Alexis Rickson. Now she's the GM, at Midwest United, and I'm doing play-by-play for them. So it's a weird full circle moment. But I haven't chatted with her about, whoa, I don't know why that looks like that. Interesting. All right, I'll address that here in a second. But the part of it that was surprising to me is half their games are at Aquinas and half their games are at the facility. And, she talked about how, well, it's just nice to have this facility and this, that, or the other thing. So we decided to go half and half. We got other things going on. But I would theorize that it's also probably has something to do with the facility itself. Maybe it's something along the lines of just what they have at Aquinas allows them the opportunity to actually be able to meet all of that criteria. Because again, we've talked about, you look at the Midwest United complex, and no offense to those guys, it's fine, but it's not necessarily a professional venue when you're there. I mean, like they have I think one set of stands that you could just roll out there, and then everybody else is in lawn chairs. There's no press box. We talked about the shipping container that everyone's on top of if you want to film it or broadcast it. Like I'm assuming it has something to do with that. So does it put strain on these clubs? Yes, but mostly just from the perspective of, okay, where are we going to do, where are we going to call, where are we going to have our games? And again, it's one thing if you have a set home stadium, like Pioneer has great facilities. So AFC Ann Arbor, at least when they play home games, I don't think we'll have to necessarily worry all that much about it. But there are some teams that you're right. They have good players. They're in a good area. They're in the league. But it's also, how do we match exactly what the expectations are? I'm sure that's the hard part.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, again, I think again that leagues do things that they think are in the best interest of the overall product, right? We can argue about the NFL, and Major League Baseball. They want to protect the shield, right? And that means that you do X, Y, and Z. But again, I look at it from the standpoint of, okay, so we talk about how great and how at least I think that based on my interactions with all these different leagues, that USL League 2, USLW is one of the quote unquote better run leagues in the country. But all these pre-professional amateur leagues are operating in the same kind of mindset. We want all games to be live streamed. We want mandatory. Everyone has to have access to a locker room, but all these leagues are taking place at the same time. I mean, these games are taking place Tuesday through Sunday, 1:00 in the afternoon through midnight across the country. And we talked about this, that there's not a lot of options, per se, that maybe meet all those requirements. I mean, a couple of years back, I remember watching one of the teams actually had tents. They had built these big ass tents that players could go change in. Like Western Michigan, for example, the Broncos, they don't have locker rooms out at their soccer fields. So they actually have these makeshift tents that players can go into and change and whatever. So obviously, because they don't necessarily meet the requirement of a building, so they've made the requirement there on site. Those are all things that again can hinder a team from wanting to be able to do this and to do it in a way in which can draw fans. But I would argue that fans don't care. I would argue that fans don't care about the national anthem and the PA address announcer. I mean, those are all things that are great, but and we're used to them. But I don't think that they're going to watch the game because, Midwest United has the best PA announcer in all of Michigan. No, they're going to the game because they want to watch some soccer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Hey,
so no, I'm not trying to say that PA announcers aren't going to draw.
Oh, I know what you're saying.
But but again, I just
in all of Michigan, you're safe, John. You're safe.
Yeah, I didn't even say Indiana. We all know who it is in Indiana.
Damn right.
Yeah.
But again, I just it's
Wouldn't you say though, for the fan, it is nice to have something that looks more polished?
Well, yeah, I mean, but that again then dictates how much you pay.
Yeah, I'm not saying we base these decisions off the fans.
No, I mean, but let's be honest. I mean, the average ticket to get into this game, I have no idea what Midwest United charges, but my guess is it's $10.
Probably. Yeah.
I mean, what is the product? Let's be honest here for a second. What is the product? It is amateur soccer. These are not professionals. Mm-hmm. Most of these players are either current high school seniors, maybe juniors, especially the USLW. You might even see a sophomore in there. You are looking at current collegiate players, all right, ranging from freshmen to seniors. And then you have your, and the quote unquote, you have your former college players, right? That's really what the makeup is.
Yeah.
So right now, if I want to go watch my own son or daughter play high school sports, I got to pay $5 to walk in the door and see my kid play. All right. Now, if I want to watch them on the NFHS network, I got to pay $11.99 a month. Okay. So yay for me. Or I could just have my wife go there. She pays the fee. She takes the videos. I get to watch it for free. Because I couldn't make it. Right. So that's what this is. So if you're charging somebody more than $10, you're going to have to provide a better, experience, right? So if you go to Flint City Bucks, for example, they've got a whole VIP section. They've got a whole, they have bounce houses and they have food trucks that come in with ice cream cones and stuff. And they actually sell alcohol there as well. I mean, so they've created an experience. The national anthem it's a beautiful national anthem. They make it a really selling merch, all this kind of stuff. They make it a really fun experience.
Mm-hmm.
But is it worth more than $10 or $15? I
probably not. No. I think,
and they're the best.
Yeah.
I mean, they're the best.
Yeah.
And I don't really know if their ticket prices even go. But what would they even go for at Flint? But again, Lansing Common, for example, then we talk about them quite a bit in this program, is that they actually have this thing now. If you're a first timer, it's on us. So come to the game; it's free. If you're a first time coming in, right? Give them the chance to kind of, experience the experience. And again, Oakland County FC, I think they do live music and they have bounce houses and face painting and things like that. That's geared towards getting the family in. And obviously you can bring your family in. Hey, $50 includes hot dogs and all this. And you have a great Saturday night. Every team is going to operate in a different way in order to create an experience. Or we know this. We know that that's going to be we know that. On the flip side of that, though, how many teams can't operate that way and are on a shoestring budget? They don't have the resources to even put up a VO camera without, being a lot of hard process for them to manage on game days. And now we're asking them to go out and be a public address announcer and asking them to have 16 ball boys, ball girls, because that's a requirement, right? Can't be running around looking for balls. Got to have ball people. right? Yeah, you got to have this, you got to have that. It just, there's so many things that are, got to have your rosters turned in an hour beforehand on Mod 11 or Squatty or whatever app it's going to be, which of course we don't have access to, so we have no idea if it's actually there or not. But wouldn't it be great if we could just get that information all sent to us in one fell swoop? Because last night you had the rosters, but I mean, but did you? It's like, it's like,
Right.
did they make any changes to said rosters? I mean, so it's like, it's just all of these things that are required that just, are they a hindrance? Are they hindering growth of these teams who, to be fair, let's be honest, a lot of these teams who don't have all those things, are they a bad team? Probably not. They're probably a pretty good team. They just don't have the people to do all that stuff because their coach is the owner, the coach, the trainer. It's like he's all of it, right? Or she's all of it.
Right.
I feel like it's a hindrance. I feel like this is something that's stopping teams from being successful because they're worried about the things that have nothing to do with soccer and everything to do with the current state of our environment in soccer in this country, which is money.
I'm sorry. I have nothing to say because I have no idea what's going on in Michigan. I'm sorry. I know this is Michigan based. I'm kind of sitting here like Homer when the toppings contain potassium benzoate when he buys the evil Krusty doll for Bart. I have that face on my whole time. I'm like, okay, now I'm just way out of here.
I can't tell.
So I'm listening diligently.
He blinked. Okay, he's still there. Okay,
I'm still here. Well, I mean, but it's not different. I mean, Fort Wayne.
He's talking about the USL. Yeah, so I think he's talking about the league in general. Obviously,
well, I'm talking about all leagues.
With that, what you said though, doesn't that contradict what you said about needing people to get out, making an experience or everything? If they have to do all that stuff, part of that, a lot of it is all that stuff. And no, I mean, Nate came actually like a bat out of hell, Meatloaf style, when he said, if I'm a basketball fan, I'm not going to an AAU game. There's a lot of regulations for AAU basketball that you have to have. And I understand where you're coming from on the money standpoint, but if they don't do all those things, what's the intrigue of just having someone come out and watch a soccer game?
Right. So, but does it hold certain clubs back? Yes.
Oh, 100%, because as at the end of the day, everything's about money. I don't care what anybody says. It's about money.
Everything. I mean, to follow the money. Like, it'll give you the answer you want. And so are some teams going to get left behind? Yeah. I mean, am I okay with that? Maybe to a certain degree. Yes.
But do the both of you feel that the teams that don't have money also aren't the best teams out there?
Yeah, but guys, I don't know why we think that these fans are going to watch this. If you are a soccer fan and you're going on a Saturday or a Thursday, Wednesday night to go watch Midwest United, there's a very good chance you're just going to watch your kid. You're going to watch your friend. You're going to watch your girlfriend. Okay, let's not think that for 1 second that 90% of these teams are just based on a local component of I know that person and I'm going to go support that person. They're not going there for the experience. 90% of amateur soccer is I know that person. I'm not going for the other reason.
Right. Now, that's why the crowds are so low.
There's 10% that I go there for the, the quote unquote, whatever. But in the MLS environment or in the professional environment, you are absolutely going for the experience. Absolutely. Because if you haven't been to one of those environments, I'm telling you, the experience is unbelievable. No different than why you're going to a Pistons game or a football game in Indianapolis, because the experience. It's the experience. It's walking into that big ass stadium and seeing all the people and all the merch and the food.
Yeah, but it's the Colts.
Well, again, yes, it might be the Colts, but my point though is that the people are in, just like when you watch the father in Rudy. He walks out for the first time and he sees the football field right at Notre Dame and goes, "This is the most beautiful thing his eyes have ever laid there, whatever seen." Like he is enthralled by being in this huge ass environment, which is an unbelievable experience. You're not ever going to get that at Aquinas College on a Wednesday. That's not going to ever be a thing. The only reason these things are in place is to create a professional environment, but I don't think the league is like, well, we're creating these so that fans will show up. That's not why they're doing this. They're doing it because they want the fans, when they come there, to all get the same thing. That's what they want. They want continuity. They want consistency. That's what they want.
Uniformity.
Right? But aside, you take that away, fans don't give a shit. The fan does not care. Great. You know what they do care about is when someone in the public address announcer world or a commentator says the wrong name. That's when they somehow care.
True. That's true.
I'm not familiar with that. I don't know what you're
Aside from that, they don't give a shit.
Yeah.
So again, I understand experience. I understand clubs are trying to create an experience because, of course, if you can create a fun experience, then yes, you are going to pull that family that may otherwise go to the Whitecaps game on a. But walking into a Whitecaps game is significantly different than walking into Aquinas College. There's a significantly difference. Significant.
Can I transition into something that makes sense with all this?
Sure.
So, we talk about product and we've talked about oversaturation of how much soccer there is here. We've talked about the lack of attendance of why people go that a soccer fan should go. So the NFL announced their international schedule the other day. And it's going to be in Dublin, London, Berlin, Germany, and Madrid.
Yep.
And where do you think all of the football games are being played? They're being played at soccer stadiums.
Of course.
But that's what I guess the product is that as big as the NFL is here, we know it's King Dog. It stomps everything in its path. That they, in order to accommodate that for only one game, I mean, there's 7 of them this year, which is the most the NFL's ever had. But to accommodate that crowd for a one-off for the product is they got to play at these huge stadiums that teams like, for instance, Nate, I know you Tottenham, you know that team. Did you know that Tottenham, when they built their stadium, it's the only NFL's purpose-built stadium outside of the U.S.? I think that's amazing.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
But it's for 2 purposes, because it holds 80,000 people, but they pack it every day when Tottenham plays.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're playing at Wembley. Enough said.
Yeah.
And they're also playing at Croke Park in Dublin. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Croke Park, but it's where they play a lot of Gaelic football. They hold the FA Cup there. I think the EPL Cup is there as well.
Have a lot of people died at that park?
Yes, the massacre of Croke Park. Yes, did you know about that?
I didn't know if that was.
Or you're saying
park,
Croke? There's actually was a massacre back in the 1920s. Yes, a shooting.
I didn't mean to be disingenuous to that. I actually
no. But you're right. No, you're right. Yeah, you're right. It's kind of ironic.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
I
didn't mean that.
No,
I apologize.
I don't think anyone's saying that it's going to be the same thing. I don't think anyone is comparing this league to minor league baseball. I don't think anyone's comparing this league to.
I don't think this league, not this league. Amateur soccer,
right?
As a whole,
amateur soccer in general.
Well, my point through that was it goes back to that conversation we keep having about oversaturation. There's just too much soccer.
There's too many
Nate, you called a great USL match yesterday.
Yep.
You think about that, but how many other games were going on within a 5-mile radius of you to do that? Mm-hmm. It's just too much.
Right. And so I'm never going to fault them for at least doing the absolute little bit. Now you're right. Like, if I'm coming to watch the game, do I really care all that much? I mean, I guess not. I mean, there used to be a world where, even like, there used to be a world where baseball was a lot like this too, before they really started getting into the marketing side. Like, it's just, you showed up to watch the game, and you had your handful of food options. And, I mean, there were teams in the Midwest League that were playing at glorified high school fields for the longest time before minor league baseball went through the rearrangement, because there were, again, to your point, John, there were too many damn teams in minor league baseball. So we had a team in Beloit, Wisconsin, playing at a glorified high school field. They didn't have any of the experience. They didn't have any of the stuff that brought people in. They didn't have anything else. And so no one came to the games because it was a dumpster. It was a dumpster.
Yeah, people forget how important that breakdown to the 120 teams.
Yes.
It hurt a lot of teams and it hurt a lot of mini fan base, but that was one of the smartest things that Major League Baseball ever did.
And then they went through a rebranding. They built up the stadium. They did all these other things. They started adding in promos and a new mascot and stuff. And now they draw thousands, on average, thousands more than what they had before. So I'm not saying that it's all about the experience. Clearly, if you're a fan, you're going there to watch the game. But I'm never going to fault this league or any other league for that matter for doing everything in their power to at least make it look uniform. Make it look like this is a solid product that is put together, because that's what I felt even in that moment. And we've done both sides of this, JT. We, like League for Clubs sometimes love those guys, but even then, sometimes you're like, there's components to this that are missing. There are, and we're not there, mind you. We're not there. But even at the games that we have been to, you're just like, it's a feel thing, right?
Yeah,
so
no,
I'm never going to fault
agree.
the league for giving
No,
that.
I don't know if I fault the league. I think again, the reason I bring this up is again because I think it's a healthy conversation to have. One, and again, if I look at these teams for what they are, right, and we'll say that a vast majority of teams, which I would say again 90%, if we're talking about 150 teams in USL League Two, let's just say that 80 to 90% of those teams are your typical local clubs who are operating in these environments. Okay. And there might be 10% that have like great fan bases, thousands of people that show up. I don't think that that's the norm in these environments. And again, maybe my percentages are too high. Maybe I should be more like it's 30% great fan bases and 70% whatever. And they might be playing in stadiums. They might be playing in parks. Because there are USL League Two teams that play in these complexes that are not stadiums, but because they don't have a choice. Because that does happen. My point of view on this is that because soccer is so saturated in this country, as John has already talked about, and we've talked about quite a bit on the show, while it is as saturated as it is, you're not getting fans, right? You're getting families. You're getting supporters of the player. It might be their girlfriend and all their friends coming because they want to support the boyfriend or the girlfriend. You're getting a bunch of family and friends coming to these environments, and they might bring their friends, and you might get a couple fans here and there because, you want to go watch a soccer game. And especially if it's a high level, high quality soccer game. It's no different than if you go to Oak University on a Tuesday night and watch a women's or men's soccer game out at the lower soccer field. The fans that are all there are probably students, some, right? And the rest are a makeup of family and friends who flew in or drove in.
Yeah.
It's not you go to Indiana, it's different. Indiana University, they fill those stands up. They fill a significant amount of because again,
and they travel extremely well within this state. I mean, extremely. I did a match, I think it was 2 years ago for Butler men's, and they play each other every year, so it's back and forth. But man, they brought four buses, charter buses up of just students, and it's only 45 minutes from Bloomington. And Bud and Jackie Selleck Bowl is a good sized stadium. And I tell you, the red surely outshined the blue in that match. It was unbelievable. I could not believe it, that I'm like, this is Butler and this is what a soccer match should look like. And then the next boys match, I think they played like Ball State, and I could count how many people were there on my hands.
Yeah, again, every team is different. Every team is unique. And I think every team should do whatever they can to draw in a fan experience that will bring people back into their seats. But I also think that we have to be realistic in this as well, which is,
Can I close with a point to see when we're just, because I know we're running late, but I think this is an issue too. Soccer's year round. And you have your son or your cousin or your friend or whatever who's playing from January through December, whether it's indoor or outdoor, and sometimes not even the same club. They'll jump to jump. It's like your favorite rock band or your favorite music group. You love them to death, but you can only go watch them so many times. And don't you think that
unless you're a groupie?
Well, I guess we're
out of left field with that
one. I think we're on the wrong. I think we're on the wrong podcast for that. However, don't you think that that's also a thing? Like football stops. Yeah, there's spring ball, but it stops after really the NFL. Baseball's the same way. It's basically April through September. but soccer's all year round, and it's just
I don't think if football went out longer, I don't think you'd lose fans. I don't think they would get like whatever. I think that football offers something that you just don't get anywhere else, and that's why it's been so successful.
But it's only they only play once
season,
a week, though. They don't play 2-3 times a week.
Yeah, but we are fully engulfed in all things football from August through February. It is,
but not
football,
necessarily
everything.
the game. Not necessarily the game.
No, no, but I mean, but again, I mean, if you think about it too, we talk about media all the time.
Yeah,
we talk about media coverage all the time. That this media coverage is an onslaught. I mean, you've got so many different things happening and showcasing football,
and that's a big thing. That soccer
you don't
lacks.
have that. But again, that's at the professional ranks. If we talk, and this is why someone was, and I know we have to end the show here in a second. We'll end it in a moment, but we had this conversation about, because when someone's like, well, when I'm trying to go, I got advertisers. Well, what are your numbers compared to that of the Premier League? I go on NBC. I go, we don't compete against the Premier League. I'm not competing against that, right? Mom and dad are not going to go watch the Premier League when their kid is on TV. Like they're going to go watch their kid, right? I mean, that unless they are straight up not cool parents, and then that's a whole other conversation. But I mean, like, we're gonna go watch our kids. They're on TV right now. Oh my gosh, this is fantastic.
UV's on. Bye, kid.
Right.
Make sure you get your put
now,
your
unless they're at the
guards
field.
away.
Which we see all the time. Parents at the field, they have their phone up, they're watching Premier League, and their kids out there. That's different. But if they're not available to go, they're not going to like watch Premier League over their child. They're going to watch their child. At least
doing great.
They would. Yeah, grandma.
Good job, kid. Good job, kiddo. Oh.
But it happens all the time. Media coverage is one thing. It's a good conversation to continue to have about the experience, and should we in this environment maybe not so much focus on the experience, maybe just focus on the product, because I do believe that you could dress up the stadium and offer incentives and promotions and all those things, but the stadium, if the team's not doing well, it'd still be empty, right? So I mean, and again, if you can find empty-ish, empty-ish.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's only fireworks on a Friday night and they're at Whitecap Stadium, yes, that's the only reason people come. They're not, that's the only reason they're going to show up in families is for the fireworks. They're not showing for the baseball. The baseball is the vehicle that got them there.
Again,
you're telling me that 5,000 moms and dads show up on a Friday to watch some baseball when there's fireworks at 10 o'clock and there's no other fireworks anywhere else?
You're missing the PA announcer. You're missing the PA announcer.
Yeah, geez.
Come on now.
Yeah, and me
That's
too.
about a third of the experience right there.
I'm the product here.
Oh my God!
Good evening, baseball fans, and welcome to Whitecap Stadium.
You're telling me that on a Friday night for fireworks night at Comerica Park, that I'm not talking about non-moms and dads. I'm talking about moms' families. You think they're going now? Dad might go there for the baseball, but he's bringing his kids because it's fireworks night.
Yeah,
right. But then a new 40,000 is going to come on Saturday without any fireworks.
Yeah, so that's the point. Like, I feel like we just kind of switched. You just said they're not coming if the team's not good, but the experience.
Well, I'm saying that they might go there to watch the fireworks and not the team.
Okay.
If the team is terrible, they're not there for the team. They're there for the fireworks. Now, if they happen to be good and there's fireworks, that's a bonus.
Yeah.
But again, the fair weather fans show up when the team is doing good. When they'd be good, right? Let's be honest. The Pistons for many years were very good. We sold out crowds, 236 straight games, whatever it was, of sold out games. And then they started to tank. And there are like 10 people there. You know what I mean? So all I'm saying is that the product is good. People will start to hear that and they'll start to make their way because, oh my gosh, I want to go see this. This is good team. Now, fireworks are the bonus.
Right.
It's a hot dog night. You get two hot dogs.
You said the good play was the bonus.
Well, if you got both, you got
JT takes both. He's like, fireworks are what come, but if the team's good, they come. Yes.
To tell you, but WAGs, by the way, means wives and girlfriends of athletes. That's what a WAG is. If we can get supporter culture in LLS, then it isn't just moms and dads and girlfriends. It's fans of the team, not necessarily fans of the individual player. And I think Coffee Firm and his group of friends and supporters and all them on Twitter, I think they're a good example. They exist out there. They might not be in great numbers, but they do exist. So, I said, I'll never fault the league for trying.
No, Lansing Common has they draw 700 fans to a game. And
is
again,
that a Bethel Polo, Nate?
It is.
It is. Yep.
Or- okay.
That
All
is
right.
Pilots.
But again, if I look at the overall fan base of teams here in Michigan who play in the Midwest Premier League, Lansing Common is the staple. They are the gold standard, right? They're the gold standard.
Right.
Not many
What
other
are they
teams in
called?
this area.
What are they called?
Lansing Common.
Lansing Common.
They draw 700 fans to a game. You know,
And what,
they draw
what
700
league are they?
Midwest Premier League.
Okay.
But they draw 700. So and again, they have created this organization. We talked about it, in which soccer is the vehicle, but they created a community-based thing where everybody wants to be part of this community, right? And that is a unique thing that works for them. But it is hard to build. Not easy thing to build. Right? They're meeting up at pubs and they're having get-togethers, and they're turning themselves into a really cool supporters group. You have to have a very passionate group of people who are fans of your team in order to pull that off. And to find that is not easy, right? And once you have it, keeping it rolling is also not easy, but they're able to do it. If I look at every team in Michigan who are in the Midwest Premier League, and I think there's 10 on the west side, there's 7 on the west side, 10 on the east side. Midwest Premier League in this state, Lansing Common on the I think they're actually in the west. I think they're in the west, I believe. Holland Rovers, all these teams. I can't think of another team that would be even close number-wise. And then the east side, I can't think of a single team that would draw anywhere close to that on a consistent basis in that league. Not even close. So you're talking like 100. Inter Detroit, I don't know how many fans they drew out to Waterford Mott this past weekend, but it didn't look anywhere close to be fair, it looked pretty empty. And that's not a knock on Inter Detroit. It's just kind of what it is. I've been to a lot of their games. They've never had a really huge fan base. It's unfortunate. But I'm just, I know we're running late here. We're like 8 minutes over, and y'all got to get to probably do something here. It's not like we have nothing else going on on these days. But I'm just saying, yes, you want people other than wives and kids and families to show up to these games, and yes, creating an experience is part of that process that maybe drives people in. I'm just saying that is it worth it? Should we be even doing it? Is it worth it? As this cat shows up, right? Like
my dog's to the left and the cat jumps on the cat. Got a zoo in here.
So it's all good. It's all good. But I just is it worth it? Or is the juice worth the squeeze? Are we at these levels? I'm not talking about at the higher levels. I'm not talking about at the highest levels in the country, because those ones you have to have an experience, because you have to. I don't know if you have to. We'll talk about that tomorrow, but I don't think you have to have these experiences. I think having a concession stand, obviously people want to eat, have good food, have great food. That could be easy. Hire food trucks, right? Have great food. But do you need to have all the other stuff? I don't know. I don't think you do, but maybe you do. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't own a team, so maybe I'm an idiot. It's okay though, because I've been told worse. But either I've been called worse in my time. But hey, that's a wrap on our 86 shows in the book, right? We're happy to have you watching this wherever you're watching from, live on our YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and Roku channel and all the above. Tomorrow, I'll be back at this, episode number 87. Tomorrow, special day for me, guys. Special day. 17 years of wedding bliss. I celebrate my 17th wedding anniversary. It was 17 years ago tomorrow that I married the love of my life, my beautiful wife, Bianca, who I have a chance to walk this beautiful world with. And we'll talk about that tomorrow. And I may even show some pictures of my wedding day, because I don't look very good. Yeah, not my best. Look, I didn't have any hair at that time. I kind of shaved my head, so you'll have to see that. So either way, tomorrow morning, right back at it. Inside the Game, episode number 87 for Nathan Wangler, John Natale. I'm Jonathan Turner. We'll see you
John
tomorrow.
Natale's cat.
Oh, yeah. What's his name?
Solo.
Solo.
See you, Solo.
See, he only has one eye.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay, good.
So
Well,
Solo.
we're going to end on that note.
There you
Goodbye,
go.
everybody.
See you guys.
This has been a presentation of the National Soccer Network.